here today. Just a couple things on housekeeping before we get started here today. I did want to let you know, Chair, that on the approval of the meeting minutes, there is one change on number 6 there regarding the tax incremental financing. So when we come to asking for approval of that, the motion was actually 5-1. And I want to thank Eric for bringing that to my attention there too. When we go to public comment today, we do have, I put it on Chair Carpenter right there in front of you up in the top here. There is a gentleman from Alabama that probably will be online here. If not, we'll be moving on, but he has 3 minutes to speak on that agenda item there. So, and
which
then
agenda item specific?
it's no agenda item specific. It was just regarding, I think, says water issues.
And that'll be at number 3, the public comment.
Yeah, public comment. So if this individual is online, we'll allow them 3 minutes to speak on the comment there.
And his name's John Stanton.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And then we have the strategic plan. Every year, staff puts together a budget to do outreach and projects here that will move forward to council for the budget committee for approval. And that's in there for today. So there's 2 things that staff's asking for approval today: the strategic plan, the EDC budget, and then update on the Mass Timber Conference outreach. And then lastly, I know we all talked about, and I appreciate everyone moving the meeting to this time at 10 a.m. for this meeting, but the city has a couple of other meetings that are kind of impacting them. So when we get to item number 8, the city would like to know if we can meet at either Tuesday at 11 or 2 p.m. If there's if preferred time, if 2 p.m. works, so we'll need some discussion on that and a proposed new time around that time. So I appreciate everyone. So with that, I'll turn the meeting over to you, Chair Carpenter.
Okay, you ready to go? All right. Good morning, Economic Development Commission. Great to see everybody. Let's start our March monthly meeting. John, if you could do a roll call for us.
Yes. Eric Sal.
Here, present.
Cindy Moore.
Present.
Luke Spencer. Not present. Stephen Chandler.
Steve, yes, present.
Chair Carpenter's present. Scott Stahl.
Here.
David Cross.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much. I'm going to move now to the approval meeting of minutes. It sounds like we need to make an amendment towards those. And I guess I'll just take care of that. We'd like to change in the meeting minutes from last month, specifically in section 6. It said that the motion passed 6-0 when in truth it passed 5-1. And so I'd like the notes to reflect those changes. Can I get a motion to approve the amended minutes?
Can I have a clarification on something?
Yep.
So 2 things. I wanted to point out on this, I realized all of a sudden that Brooke has resigned. So is that new, or is that known, or is that old news?
You want
I believe we talked about that at the last meeting.
Okay. So I didn't realize that. And then also, when we talk about the votes from 6-0 to 5-1, I'm unclear why the other 2 are 5-0. So we have 2 other votes that are 5-0, and then we come to this one vote that's 6-0 or 5-1. It doesn't match.
So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had all 6 here last meeting. You were all.
It is. I left about halfway through though, because I think you had to take over.
Yeah,
So
okay, so
I
maybe
That might have been why.
might have been that absent.
And apologize, Eric, we lost the video.
Okay.
So, I mean, we lost the sound. We only had the video. So we.
Okay. So one more thing too is when we get the minutes, they come out, like on this one, the minutes came out on 3/3 from a 2/12 meeting. And in our minutes, we recognize the need to respond to something by 2/19. And so if the minutes could come out faster, in this case, the minutes came out after that response time that we had agreed on was an important thing that I had missed. So if the minutes come out closer to the actual meeting? So if there was things to be adjusted, we could
Sure.
comment
do
on that
that.
right away, or if there are agreements or commitments that we could see them, right away that way.
Yeah, staff can do that for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Sorry,
Good
Ryan,
job.
go ahead.
No, I appreciate it. Okay, so could we get a motion to approve the amended minutes
Yeah, just-
after feedback and suggestion?
So moved with amendments.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion on the minutes? Okay, with that said, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay,
Got you all this time.
Just in case the audio goes away.
motion passes.
All right, thank you.
We're now going to move to section 3, which is public comment. We do have someone who has signed up to make a public comment. Is John Stanton present? Okay. With his absence then, is there any other people signed up or present for public comment in person or online? Okay, moving on to number 4 then, approval of the strategic plan. Take it away, John.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chair Carpenter. We've been working on this with the commission pretty much the last 3 months here. We'd like to get approval from this, from the commission here to take this forward to the city council in the April, get it on their April meeting there too, so.
Do we have a comment on that? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so after I attended a city council meeting and I've been watching those to catch up. I did not realize that people would come with suggestion and wanting to change code and have different things amended by reading and using, pieces of this that's presented. So they'll read pieces of this and then explain or reach as to why it approves what they want to do. So when we look at this, clarity in this is key. And so when I look at this, we have a lot of words as harmoniously balancing and prosperity and social well-being and desired future state, and it's muddy. And I'm not the biggest, orator of specific words, but I think all of this page has like 3 specific things we're trying to say as far as serving the community's needs and doing it in a way that it respects the community and the environment for a healthy economy. But there's a lot of other stuff in there. So after sitting through some of those other things, there's a lot of words, a lot of additional words in this that I think make it a little more unclear than people then use it for later. So that's-
I would agree. It's not to deride this in any way. It's a bit of a flowery mission statement rather than executive summary. And I think it doesn't frame it well in terms of what the subsequent aspects of that plan specify. So I think it needs tightening, for sure.
Eric, did you have a draft of something different that you'd like to present as an option?
Yeah, so that goes back into where I realized that when I got the minutes that there was a deadline asking for response by 2/19. And so I don't know, appropriately wise, but in the top section there, I think in light of clarity, I think we can just kind of ask, what is it trying to say? And it could be summarized, the vision for economic development in Estacada envisions a thriving and sustainable community that recognizes the environment and the community. And in this desired future state, Estacada is a hub of innovation, offering many employment opportunities, embracing technical advancements and preserving its unique natural and cultural heritage. I think we had a lot of different words in there that, for my mind, it takes the clarity out of it. So I couldn't tell you exactly what we want to do, exactly who we're trying to protect. And I think for our mission here, and then even looking at our goals further in here, we need to remember that if we're going to spend the community's money, we need to be thinking what's best for the community. And in all things we have before us in the city, including like our water development and our sewer development, it is really protecting the community that's here and hearing from them. So I think protecting the community, protecting the environment and providing for them is what we're trying to find words
Yeah.
to say. And I would be happy to work some more on it and bring that back. But I think it's too flowery. I do think in the past years, it was popular to use some more flowery buzzwords around things. And I think now there's a desire for clarity.
It's aspirational, it's good, but it's not an executive summary.
Yeah.
I'm happy to separately work on this with you if you'd
Oh,
like.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments on this? One of the things, Eric, I appreciate your feedback, and one of the things that's important for me is that the vision and mission statement is memorizable, and this would be a very difficult one to ask Eric on the spot in the grocery store, like, hey, what's the mission statement of your thing? And some of these words would be tricky to remember. And so I do think trimming for that purpose, I think makes a lot of sense. John, if I could ask, just because I remember when I first came onto the commission, this was something that also, was a concern of mine too. And I just want to check for alignment, basically, and that is, how does this executive summary and the pages that supersede it and proceed it align with the city in the city council's mission and vision statement? Because my biggest fear is I don't want ours to be a mission statement that moves us this way when the city council's vision statement and mission statement move them that way. And so can you speak a little bit more in terms of just the alignment to make sure that whatever we land on, because really our mission is to provide the city council with the best information possible so that they can make good decisions, right?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Carpenter. I appreciate that. The Economic Development Commission is that voice. Think of it as like, it's that, advice to council around what you in the community want to see as business owners and actors in this space, right? So you're advising the council on what you feel are your needs. I'm excited to hear, Eric,
Yeah.
you're actually diving into this, and I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear.
Yeah.
And that's what the commission needs to do. This is your work. This is where you see the city for economic development, and you're that advice to council, right? So that's what's really important. If it's building, for example, if it needs to be a 1 or 2 line for mission value statements for you guys, that's great, right? It needs to come from your heart within what you feel this community needs. If it's protection, Eric, like you guys talked about for like resources, that needs to be crafted in there, because no city or county is going to have the same vision for economic development. It has to come within there. And that advice goes to council, because council's not everyone from the business community, right? So you're that voice for the business community to be able to advocate for businesses and what their needs are from that standpoint there.
Okay.
So.
Go ahead.
One thing further in there, when we go to goals and priorities, I would like to look more into those from that light as well, to match those up. And it's no secret, one of my big things is cost of living for people. And when we look at the average wages in the city compared to the prices of the homes that we have, how those add up. When we get further into this report, we start to reference that concern, but we call it like workforce housing. And to me, that's not really respecting the average community member. So our desire for what we're looking for, that should be somewhat the norm. I feel it's lessening the value of it by calling it workforce housing.
Yeah.
So I don't like that term for what we're trying to achieve. So that's all.
Because if it's workforce housing, what do the others get if they're living in the non-work?
This is just total housing that manages, that matches community needs.
No, I
Now,
know.
if there's anything other than that, you can call that something else.
Mhm.
But whatever meets what the most needed in the community is, that's what I want to see more as the standard.
The old
Not
thing
with
in
a
English
special.
was to call it upper something and lower something, upper esticator and lower esticator.
Yeah,
has that
I don't want those delineations
Totally.
inside of our city.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's respectful to the whole community.
And this is a, recreational area too. So you have your base community members and then you have your seasonal that come in.
Yeah.
So count for that.
And I
point.
think that helps get to where I think what community members really want to see too is the protecting of the community member in the economy and in the plans of the city. And that even goes to things like finding some way to protect them from paying the costs of development outside of those that take advantage of the development. So like the things like water and sewer, those weren't things that the community bore the increased cost was, because when they moved here, that met their needs. So then when we have to develop and grow and bring other people in for these houses, the cost of those things, the existing community didn't need, they don't necessarily want to see how they are going to be saddled with the costs of paying for that.
But to rebuttal that, they also benefit from the growth of the city, right? As more residents come in, more businesses come in. So they also, there's a relationship. So should they afford or should they, pay for those improvements? Should they be responsible or helping in?
Yeah, but we can't put that word benefit on them as if that's their view of a benefit. So some may view that as beneficial, but some don't. I think that's just recognized in any community that's growing from an older, smaller community. Many people will say, well, this benefits us all. This grows. This is great. That is one perspective, but there is a half of a community with another perspective that says, I was happy before you came in with all this. At least respect my opinion and help me. If you respect my opinion through that, you'll help me towards a growth place in the future.
You can just go visit Trails Inn here or the Cazadero and talk with people and get your information.
For sure.
Yeah, those are ways to find, and you'll find certain people that are there that think in certain ways.
Yep.
When I was at the council meeting, there was a man that was there on the council and he had a lot to say about different things, but one of the things he referred to an election, was it like a bias? So it's like saying, we got everybody to respond, we got 100% of the people that attended our meeting to respond, and we can't get them to respond in any other way. But then it's saying, well, you got 100 people that were in a room for a certain reason to respond, and so they all have a certain response. So it's just being careful, trying to weed through the data and find that it serves everybody.
I think what you're really looking at is what I refer to as uniquely esticated.
Yes.
And I was questioned like this somebody else in town. I mentioned uniquely esticated to them, and they go, well, how did you come up with that term? And I said, well, because we're in that place where we have to meld the old world with the new world.
Yeah.
And that fight is going to go on for as long as I'm here.
Yeah.
And we've got to find the middle ground somewhere. And unfortunately, the old school has no middle ground. They just have what they want.
And the old school, the new school has no middle ground. They just want what they want.
Yeah.
They want what they want.
So we have to recognize both so that we can both go through.
And we lie in the
Didn't say
middle.
it was
with all
easy.
that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if I could, Chair Carpenter.
Go ahead.
Maybe you could have a subcommittee of like Eric and David, if you
That's what I
guys
was
want to take that and
Yeah.
work on that and then get comments back to staff, and then we could.
Thank you.
Yep.
Uh,
So it sounds like we'll table
Table it, and then-
this vote for a future date, and we'll empower both Commissioner Sale and Commissioner Cross to kind of do a small group. Would you like to be part of that?
Sure. I'm just gonna say, you said in April, the city would
I
council.
would like to, we would like to get this in the springtime to council, and I appreciate, I just love
Yeah.
the discussion happening today here. I mean, that's great it took a while for you guys to, get there, and I just love we're there. But I think if you have a subcommittee, could work on it. Maybe you guys can find your times to work, and then, maybe get that feedback back to us, maybe in 2 weeks, and we could circulate it out to the group. And then if everyone, it makes any other changes, then we can bring it back for the April agenda. If that would work for everyone.
Go ahead.
To clarify on this, and I thank you both for stepping up to address, just so I'm clear in my mind, are you addressing the executive summary page, or are we tabling the entirety?
I think table the whole, it sounds
Yes.
to me,
Yeah.
Commissioner Moore, that we would table the whole strategic plan and let the subcommittee do any changes or drafts, and then circulate back to me, and then I'll update it, and then we'll circulate it out to the whole commission to give thumbs up, thumbs down. And then if it sounds like it's good, we'll put it on the agenda for or if we need more discussion in April, right?
Can we agree that we will do that by Thursday, the
Yeah, I
20th
think
of
that's,
March? Otherwise,
Yeah.
right,
I think that,
put
yes,
some edges to it.
because otherwise you guys get busy again and, and it's just, so maybe we put, 2 weeks, within 2 weeks of the subcommittee, what is today, the 11th, so we're talking about the 25th. The subcommittee could have comments back to me about the strategic plan. How's that work?
So
And
not
then-
just the executive summary, but all
Oh,
the goals,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
priorities,
yeah.
Goals and
everything that
everything.
we've filled in here, one less. Okay,
Yep.
got it. Thank you
That
for the
work?
clarification.
Yes.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
If we do, as a subcommittee connect, we have a limitation on how many people, because if we
Yeah.
hit a certain amount, we have to record
Yeah,
it.
so 3 would work for this group here, because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good job.
3 would work. We had 4 would be too many.
And you said March 25th?
Yes. Boy, you guys are getting pretty formal here. I mean, it's like.
That's how we roll. Yeah, we're
All
dead
right.
serious about it.
This is
I
our
love it. I
development.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to give City Councilor McElroy an opportunity. Do you have any expounding comments on this topic? Okay, you might be.
I think we should have more mute buttons.
What's that?
I think we should have more mute buttons.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, then we are officially going to table this and looking forward in the next Economic Development Commission meeting to hear a report out from our subgroup who's going to meticulously work through these processes so that we can put something together that's more in line and succinct with our shared mission, vision, and values and goals. Thank you.
Was this shared electronically as part of the meeting
Mhm,
packet? Yeah,
mhm.
okay, great.
Okay, moving on to number 5, approval of the Economic Development Commission budget.
Yes, thank you, Chair. What we have in the packet is every year the city has the commissions. If they're doing any marketing or outreach or any research events that they have the commission, for example, review the proposed expense and get our approval for that. So for example, last year we did 2 events. We did the outreach in the industrial park event out there. And then we also had the business outreach event here in December. So we have to budget for those events there. So we've included 2 events. One to do a tour of the industrial park. So folks can learn more about the type of businesses we have in there and the opportunities to be out there, kind of a lunch and learn out there. And we'd love to, we'll get a list of, I think that would probably be somewhere we target in July. And then the second would be to have another event in maybe the fall around October here. We received input back from the December event and it was really trying to hear what could be beneficial for more small businesses in the downtown area. So, doing some type of outreach with the small business community here and helping them what kind of programs and support could be available for them too. And then the other thing too is printing in there for available land inventory. That's helpful for us to be able to market any opportunities if we have companies coming in to look within Estacada to invest and develop whether it's manufacturing or healthcare or just different types of items there. And then lastly, we have in there for a hotel study. That is something that did come out of the council goal setting. They would really like to understand the opportunity to be able to attract a hotel operator here. And then what would that look like? And a market study is really helpful because it allows any type of operator to understand what their revenue potential would be, what the capture rate is there. And cities that do that, if someone comes in, then they're able to start marketing that and have that discussion there too. So those are items here for your discussion or approval, and staff's asking for approval on the budget here. So
And then the budget for contract at 15 grand, what's that?
that's for the marketing study, for the hotel
Okay.
market study.
And do we have an idea of the contractor or a
No.
preliminary, or is it still
Still
bidding?
budget, yeah. Once, if you guys approve the budget here, there's a budget process with the city. So Melanie and Elena will start that probably, I would say in April or May. they update their budget every year. That goes to the budget committee reviews the whole city's budget. And then that'll go in front of city council and then it gets approved from there. So it'd be starting in July, goes from July to June 30th for the year. So.
I mean, the hotel idea is great. I think, with a lot of the recreational out here, some people don't like to camp and would rather stay in a hotel. And so that could be
Mhm.
great revenue for the city. But also, I just kind of was thinking like, I don't see anything in here for like study of like any type of food court, or maybe, I don't know if that's part of this or maybe something else.
That's a great discussion. I
And
mean, I think, that's a great idea. I mean, I think, and that could be something to add in here to budget for that. It's been a discussion of like, how you could potentially find, what that would look like, right? From a standpoint of, you look at like Oregon City, OC, what is it, corner 13 down in Oregon City, you look at what Canby did with their city library. Those have been great opportunities. I know the council's interested in that, so I think, one of the things that we've talked to the city about is maybe like even partnering with Portland State University with their MRED program and then having them come in like over the summer and look at a couple areas for that. So maybe putting a stipend in there to help those graduate students. But we've done that in other cities and it's quite successful, looking at some of your vacant areas and thinking around what would be an opportunity for that. So Commissioner, that's a great idea.
I didn't realize that this was like the time frame to get ready to talk about future things like that might be relevant to plan for like that. Or the process of how all of a sudden something shows up on our budget that's, like 90% of the budget that we've never had a conversation about that we're supposed to rubber stamp because there's not been conversation, there hasn't been work, there hasn't been research. And so I'm a little bit concerned like that, because if we went back to what the community asked for, the community asked for primarily, one of the highest things was, say, a grocery store. And so if we're going to go use the community's money to do a study to try to bring something here, maybe, making sure that we're also matching what it is that our research found out that they would like to have in that too. So if we ask them what they want, and what they want to see, and then we take the money and we go spend it on the hotel, which I think part of the problem is the hotel wasn't really specifically delineated in the report or the survey very well. I just want to make sure that if it comes out that all that we saw from this is we asked you all these questions and now we're going to go put money into a hotel study. I think we need to respect some of those other things that they pointed out there.
I do want to point out that the Johnson Economic Retail Study shows the gap for the grocery store. So in that study, if you go back into the study, it shows, I might be wrong on the numbers, don't hold me to it, but if you look back in the study, it shows we have a gap for about a 10,000 square foot grocery store. So being able to attract, we have that data, we have that information. So we do have that to be able to, if someone comes in and wants to be like let's say a grocery outlet, right? We could show them like, this is what would support for this town right now. So we have that data.
So in a sense, we have, so it's a similar study that you're saying, a similar study to what we're going to do with the hotel has already been done for a grocery store.
Yeah, we've did it for pretty much for like all the services in this downtown area. So spend some time. We've had the Johnson Economic Report in here. Spend some time reviewing that because,
I've spent a lot of time, but I can't find the hotel.
okay, no hotel, right? There's no hotel in there, right? In the Johnson, it was basically looking at like, what are the gaps that we're losing? We're losing dollars in our community that are going to Sandy and down to Clackamas,
that's
right?
true.
So that report shows like what the support would be for the square footage if someone wanted to come in and open up a dental shop, right? Or a grocery store, right? So the grocery store would take that, look at that data, check those numbers with their own, but they've already got that information. So there's at least an interest to come in and start looking for land for a grocery store because they can see there's a gap, there's revenue there. Now it's this, could we find a spot and would it work to that point? We didn't do anything, there wasn't anything completed for like a food cart pod area, right? But that's something, they're kind of scattered all over the city, right? But thinking about, it's been successful in their other areas of trying to find an area for, folks after 5 o'clock could, the city kind of becomes quiet. So how do you kind of activate your downtown corridor? Right.
I think just to be clear, the Johnson report excluded Sandy entirely. And so if somebody was to come in here and ask information, there's a key piece of that that's missing. So, when we look at if it's really there for the grocery store, I'm not sure that it is, because they excluded that area completely.
The Sandy area.
Yeah. Nothing about the closest city to us. So.
Commissioner Cross?
I get what you're saying, but if hotel is the answer, what was the question, right? So in the economic report, it said that there was difficulty keeping money staying in Estacada because the money went out. And from a marketing perspective, one of the ways to keep money in an area is to make more outsiders come and stay in an area, to vacate, to spend leisure time, because then they'll start to bring more money into the community to spend it. And that is also has a knock-on effect of the local community. When the local community sees that more people are visiting and staying in Estacada, it also attracts other businesses, because if a hotel were to move in here, it would be attractive to other businesses to say, oh, Estacada is becoming a destination. Like, everyone knows that we're on the edge of the Mount Niagara Forest and how beautiful it is. But if businesses such as hotels actually come and make concrete investments in here, it creates a structure around, like, bees gather around honey kind of thing. And so there is actually a way of saying, yeah, putting a hotel in here could be a good way of making more local community money stick within the community, because of the fact it attracts other businesses which are more likely to keep our money inside our community rather than driving off to, say, Clackamas to go out for a meal of an evening, etc. So it's not as silly as it sounds, so to speak. And also to the food cart.
Yeah, my worry is, though, with the hotel is the city's control over the building, right? Making sure it's unique and part of Estacada. You can get any type of hotel chain in here, and you want to match the environment of the community, and the community would go in an uproar if it's just this white building and ugly, right?
Agreed. Totally.
Yeah, and so it needs to also, maybe, I don't know if that study would also include design or anything like that, but I think.
Wouldn't include design. What it would do is help an operator. More than likely, it would probably show that you'd have a boutique operator. And their boutique, if you look in McMinnville and certain areas that have smaller hotels, they're like 40-room hotels, right? They do have character to that shape, right? Because they know that they got to kind of create that. I doubt it you would see the support for, like, a Marriott or a Hilton, but you never, but that's why you got to have the study. Like, how many rooms could you fill a night for 360? What's your RevPAR per door? What would that look like to that point? And then becomes like, okay, this is what I would fill. I'm close to Mount Hood, they look at that, and then it's like, well, where's a parcel, right? And then they can have a broker start to identify that and then go through the design process from there. So.
Quick comment on the budget for the hotel market study, or whatever study we end up doing. I'd be happy to do some outreach to some potential funding sources if that has not already been done.
Oh, that's great.
Outside of the city
Yeah.
offers.
Yeah, that's
some of
the
our
other thing.
South Oregon partners or.
I
RDI.
appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And we always, we'll always look for grants and other types of funding. So that is a great opportunity too, to think of. So
Thank
I'll
you,
do some
Commissioner
homework.
Moore.
Sure.
especially
Yeah.
even for like the food cart, that could be even if we wanted to put in, what I've seen, like, maybe you put 5,000 to 10,000 to give to the Portland State University to, have the kids come out and do a study, and they'll come up with some, what it would look like, and some different options. But it's a great way of getting youth to engaged in your community, so.
They
just-
do renderings and.
Yeah, they do
vignettes and
renderings,
stuff.
and, I mean, it's.
And it's free, right? Well,
It's free. I mean, you give them some stipend back to the university, but
Yeah.
the kids get, to eat a couple times and come out, and, but really it helps bringing youth in and getting youth engaged and looking at different opportunities, their imagination is, way up here and ours is, sometimes right in here. So. I
And
mean,
they know the trends.
yeah, and they know the trends. Exactly. Yeah. So just a thought there.
If I could ask a logistical, maybe practical question, just because I'm new to the commission, as is just about everybody. But I understand that it was a part of the city council's goals. And so they've placed the hotel market study on our charge to do that, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But some of the prior, outreach and summer luncheons, that kind of stuff. I don't know, the success ratio of that, as that clearly that's something that it's the city's desires for us to keep doing. But I'd love to, at some point, talk about what we would consider that to be a success or not, in terms of what the metrics look like of operating what looks to be about, $2,000, $3,000 worth of investment in those outreach processes. But I think to the council's, questions that they were asking you, John, like what would a process look like if we wanted to study food carts, or if we wanted to, 'cause I don't see that we have the budget threshold at this moment to even bring anyone from Portland State out. Like what options do we have if we wanted to amend
I
the
think-
budget that was placed in front of us?
Well, I appreciate y'all, this is new for me too, with the
Sure.
city and how each city does their budget a little different. City of Estacada, they work with the commission here. So, and I love where you're going as the board, because I think, we should maybe put $10,000 in there, and I'll, give it to Melanie, and you guys can approve that for the food cart study there too. And that's just for like what we were talking about, is the need to hear from the business community. You're talking and saying, look, it's important that we figure out where the food cart pod is in our town.
Yeah.
And so let's figure that out, right? Let's get some people in here to figure out what that looks like, right? I think going forward, Chair, one of the things we could do is just kind of in the meeting agenda, we could maybe put like a placeholder for next year's budget, right? And this kind of is like, okay, we're all jumping on it, looking at it for this year, but like, we can always add in like, hey, this is something, Eric, you may come up with something like, this is something around, future needs in my workforce is what I need here, is what I'm hearing, right? And what's that look like, but at least we could start identifying those things in the future to be able to say, hey, next January or February, this is what we've accumulated over the year. And this is what we think is priority for us to think about too. So.
When we talk about, industrial campus, summer luncheon, outreach, connecting downtown and the industrial park, things like that.
Mhm.
That's where I envision finding these things that people need and how we're going to develop and how we're going to help. That is what's going to go on the budget as far as what we need help to do. And so while we think we might need somebody as a liaison between business and the city, that's going to that's going to work on those things, not as a member of the government, but as a member of seeing how we do the legwork around these things like a hotel market study or like food carts and things like that. I would have kind of said, oh, well, that's probably like the Downtown Development Commission. I would have just assumed that when you do those kinds of things, that would be under their scope. And so all of a sudden to have the money dumped here to buy a study is just a surprise to me, because I thought that would fall under people that are really studying the downtown development or things like that. So I'm not sure why it didn't, where it plops. I'm not sure what
I think
direct
like,
there.
the goals like the commission is, we're trying to be inclusive of all the business owners, right? And it's tough because, for years, the industrial park's been down there and there's just, but I think the more to like, and I love where where you went earlier about at these events, and to your point, Chair, like having some metrics would be like, how many people are attending, and to have an open conversation with the business community is what do you need, right? And getting both people at both events to talk about those things, right? Because then if you might have, hey, I need people at the entry level that can do X, Y, and Z. And a business owner over here might say, I need the same type of folks, right? And they're like, well, okay, how are we going to get the supply chain for that type of worker bees in both of our industries, right? So it's like, understanding what the bigger needs are for the whole business community, right? There's going to be a lot of shared commonalities, I think, that we'll hear from the business park and with the business owners. And the same thing, I think, too, is like smaller business sometimes needs people to help mentor, 'em, right? So like maybe they're growing or trying to expand, and how am I going to do that? To be able to talk with, another business that's gone through those growth periods. That's important to be able to make our community stronger from that standpoint there.
I think, I'm the last person that's still here that has anything to do in the industrial park. And so our people that have been involved with that have dropped off. And when there's needs and when there's ideas and when there's not specific things or specific actions or next things or whatever else, those are people that have that as a part of their life all the time. It's like, okay, we're going to do this. That team's going to work on that. That team's going to do that. We'll meet on Friday. We'll do this next week. So when this ends up being like things brought up to the surface and moved around in different ways to do it, or different commissions or different funding or different budgeting, they're gone. So when we look at how to grow those things, we have to figure out, how do we make progress on this, or, the round table or off to the side type of things to prepare and to engage and to go forward, so that we can keep them engaged. There's something, we have to do something different to keep them engaged.
Well, and this is a great, segue into, if you approve the budget, just to think about like putting a subcommittee together to talk about the one in July, right? Like, how would we want this to look like in that industrial park, and what are the metrics to making it a successful event, right? So that's,
Yeah, again, I've got my subcommittee hand raising on today, but so I've been interested in discussing this more with you, because if I pose the question, if the industrial park was the economic central hub of Estacada rather than the center of Estacada, how would you want it done differently? And if you'd like to get into a subcommittee on that and not create a quorum problem, then I'd be happy to work with you. And then we could come up with a proposal, as you've suggested, and we could say, here's the things that the Economic Development Committee, in addition to what it's doing for Estacada centrally, could do to attract more business to and make the business park a more fulfilling of why you joined the committee in the first place, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we'd find some interesting things, because their needs are sometimes more of a soft needs, like needing to get access to services that from the city, or needing to get help through different processes or things like that. It's not so long-term planning, development and looks and things like that. It's more, it's more succinct. So I
You'd like
think,
to have the discussion that we've had, because
Mhm.
raising my hand, that the only thing I've ever really done at the industrial park is taught my kids to drive. So I think that's probably quite common.
Mhm.
And so if you'd like to have that chat. that'd be
You
great.
know, the other thing might be too, is, and we've talked about this before, is that even if there's one of these dates that we could set for this meeting to go and tour the industrial park,
Yeah.
to see what in the world's going on down there. I mean, there is a lot of things.
well, that's a great point. Maybe our next meeting, we just have it, and we could have it at your place if that's
Mhm.
okay. And,
Mhm.
and then afterwards we could tour, and I
Mhm.
think that'd be educational outreach for everyone there from
They
that
expected
standpoint.
to be fully catered, so she provided the usual drinks.
Well, I think
we gotta put it in the
Marijuana
budget.
edibles
That's part of the $15,000 hotel room.
in
Yeah.
So do you guys want to put something in there for the food cart study?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
Okay.
How big is it? I mean, like an 18 grand budget is nothing. But
No, it's
in light of the overall budget of
the city
what- the
budget.
city, how
Don't,
much is
I don't know, but
Okay.
you could go online and look.
I
I
think,
would say it's what,
That-
17?
I'll give you just a for instance,
Yeah.
because I was on the budget committee. I think it's something around 29 million
Yeah,
for the city, which is small.
yeah, this is a drop in the.
Because I
bucket.
was on City of Gresham's, and I think we were back in the 80s. We were, I don't know, 80
Probably,
million,
yeah.
80 million, and now they're almost a billion. They're
Yeah.
they're just right on top of a billion right now.
Wow.
Wait, the Gresham,
Gresham is almost on top
that's
of,
their budget?
there is almost on top of $1 billion.
Yeah,
What's the population of Gresham now? 160 or something?
so I think
It's
it's
like
the
110,
third largest.
I know,
city.
I just looked, it's
Yeah.
the third, I think. the
Yeah, third largest city in
yeah.
Oregon, so.
Yeah.
But you know, when you look at the scope, when I looked at it, I said, well, this budget is nothing. I mean, we have itty bitty little departments that
Well,
budgeted more than this.
that kind of brings up a point too, you know,
Sure.
studies are good and, but is it mainly to study and then pass it on? Or can we let the markets kind of just dictate this and kind of solicit to businesses?
You can,
Rather
so-
that, and then, you know, because of the budget, you know, this is not a lot of money, but then we can utilize it for something that would bring it quicker economic development, such
Yeah.
as food cart, maybe a food cart venue. But then we compete with our local businesses, Casadero, other restaurants. And we also compete with, you know, the city property that's also a venue too. So
Sure.
up by the library. So that's kind of, I just was thinking maybe let the market decide, help let the market kind of dictate the role or
Well-
attracting somebody to come in here.
Yeah, it's like the hotel study, right? If, you know, if you have the pod cart, you know, visualization, what it would look like. It helps an operator to be, you know, looking at like, oh, this would work. I did this in Oregon City. You know, you look at OC Brewery, they're in Oregon City, and then they went over to Canby, right? And they took if you haven't gone there, go to the Canby old library. And they worked with the city and they converted that and went in there and put in their food carts, right? And it's in their downtown core. And it helped kind of regenerate by the park area over there, right? So it's just, there's an operator, right? Could be, the city could solicit and we say like, hey, we done a study. Would you be interested in coming out here, right? So it helps from that standpoint to be able to think about, you know, people that have been successful to see, oh, wow, they studied this. There's a pathway to yes for me if I come in here to do this, right? So
Okay.
it just helps.
If I could ask not to prolong this conversation, but I haven't read the Johnson report. I'll need to make sure I study that. But has there been a study on bringing natural gas out to Estacada yet? Because I know that's a big one from the constituents across the board, and that sounds appropriate for economic development as well. Are you aware of any type of?
Yeah, so I've had conversations with Northwest Natural, and we're gonna work to get a proposal to do a study. And then we'll bring that forward it's gonna be expensive, right? So and then we'll bring that forward to have that discussion. We'll probably talk about it here and then we'll be talking about it with council, but it was one of the goals of council on infrastructure
Right.
to at least get a quote from Northwest Natural to see what it would cost to do this study, right? We did it several years ago. We had a meeting with Northwest Natural probably back in, I don't know, Cindy was Clackamas was probably 2018 or something, you know, and don't hold me to it, but I was probably $200,000 to do that study for that main line to come all the way up here, right? But you have to do that study to understand what the true
Right.
dimensions and how much it's going to cost, right? I think once we have that, then it could be a discussion also to see like, are there other partners that would help participate in doing that study?
Okay.
Because, you know, I think you're coming just outside of near Damascus and like, you know, boring, but like, what would it take to, you know, there's other users that could be potentially through that. And I'm
Right.
not saying, you know, maybe the county or other Happy Valley or some other people are like, would want to participate in that study. So it wouldn't all be like borne by the city. And then again,
For
you
sure.
know, with the administration change, maybe there'll be funding for that. I don't know.
Right.
We'll see how that kind of goes. from this.
Okay, I just feel like that would be an appropriate thing for this commission as well, as I know that that's a prohibitive thing to
I think
industrial
so.
park growth,
Yeah.
as well
okay.
as it's you know, a demand that has come from the new neighborhoods that have been developed through the process.
Okay.
Any other comments on the budget? I have a question just in terms of what are we supposed to do now? I'm assuming that the council needs us and the city staff needs us to approve this budget.
Yeah. If you want it,
However, it sounds like we have some different aspirations that we'd like to try to request. Go ahead, Scott.
thank you, Chair. I put in there, if, you know, it sounds like, definitely was like, I put a, allowance of 10,000 for the food cart with PSU. If there's anything others that you folks need to put in there or your thought from it.
Well, from what I'm listening to, I think it would be appropriate to think about a budget for some type of messaging.
Okay,
Yeah.
marketing messaging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a messaging budget or
Like
a
marketing.
marketing budget, because, I always took a hard look at what Kalama, Washington did, their model. And every once in a while you see them pop up out there in the media,
Yeah.
media sphere, they're popping up and they're itty bitty.
They're like us, yeah.
Yeah, they're just like us, but except for they happen to be on I-5, which
Yeah.
was a different thing, but.
And the Columbia River.
But
Yeah.
they put themselves out there and all they're doing is just planting little seeds out there. Every
Yeah.
once in a while, twice a year.
Is
boom,
it, is it more?
They're planting ideas on people's heads, which
Yeah.
is good for us,
Yeah.
Is it social media more that you're seeing? it
No,
on,
it's
or-
coming across in radio. It came
Okay.
across on,
Mhm.
online, which is actually very cheap for us to do, I think.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing, it's very cheap for us to do. It just comes up, and you're coming through, all of
Yeah.
a sudden, boom, hey, we're Kalama, we've got X amount of space available for this or that, hey, give us a thought,
I agree. One of the things I said when
That-
I was
that's really
interviewed for the
nice, yeah.
commission was that we're very good at hiding our light under a bushel.
Yeah.
I think that
There you go.
everything, every like hotel study or every food court study or industrial park discussion, I'm happy to put out a press release. I'll show you the format I would use and just send it to the local media. I mean,
Yeah.
the minimum we should be doing is that.
Yeah,
I agree with that, although too, just to make sure Eric's voice is also represented too, and that is, there are some people in this community that want the light under the bushel. So
And that's part
we
of
need
our
to be
unique
mindful of
brand
that
of
also.
Investigator.
Totally.
well, that was the other. part.
$5,000, you think?
Oh, at least. He's more of an expert than I am. I would probably defer to what you think would be appropriate.
Yeah, maybe 7. And the other thing I was going to comment on this budget is, even before this discussion came up, it's not enough. Because if we're going to start having other discussions which are entirely valid about food carts, for example,
Sure.
because food carts would tie into the economic feasibility for someone who was going to build a hotel, I would want to see this entire budget probably doubled. But I don't know what the process is for that. But if like one of my marketers came to me and says, here's the budget, I'm like, you've missed out a huge chunk of things there.
This is
Well,
we make recommendations to the city on.
Sure,
And then
sure.
they would want, they're
Yeah,
gonna.
I
approve
could,
the
I'll
budget.
take it to Melanie and then she
Okay.
can bring it to the budget committee and the budget committee is a representation.
Well, let's just do that then. Maybe we can recommend, so doubling that would be 36,000, correct? If I did my math correctly.
Yeah.
And
If we did include a media communication budget, and would the food cart study cost the same as the hotel study?
I mean, we could put it in there and then whatever we can negotiate with Portland State.
well, let's just, and I think instead of being so specific about hotel market study, maybe our budget line item
Studies.
should just be economic studies.
Studies, yeah.
Because I could also predict or foresee 4
Mhm.
months from now, the city dropping a new study that comes from them to us, and that at least gives us the budget threshold to be able to conduct
I
that.
like,
Let's
I like
say
calling out the hotel.
40,
like,
let's say 40. And one of the
But-
things that you can do when you go to the third-party contractors and say, oh, my budget for that is only this, and get them to meet you, I'm sure we can
Yeah.
knock down the price,
Okay,
getting some of these services provision for the city.
okay.
Is there wording that can be less, as general as possible? So say we decided, say as we go to these roundtables or the industrial park tour, we find other things that might want to all of a sudden, hey, that makes sense.
Yeah,
We would love to help with that or look into that, but we just turned in a budget.
Yeah.
Is there a way to open it?
The other thing too is like what we've always tried to do is find sponsors too, or like if we can get PGE, has been always a good participant, Business Oregon, so to your point, like, as you kind of think of it, like we're finding grants like cities, just so I think having a placeholder, but also we'll always be looking for, because some folks do like to sponsor the event to get their recognition out there, right? So like,
sure.
it's just something to think about, like at the industrial event, like we could probably find some sponsors to help.
Well, it's
Uh,
not so much the event. It's like what we discover outside of the event that needs to be addressed.
Oh, afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be like, hey, there's 6 of us that are working super hard on this DEQ
yeah.
study.
You
And,
need,
and we are, and it's a real distraction to our business, and we could really use some help from the city to go lay out a framework so that everybody doesn't have to make a huge study from scratch. Can the city help for everybody that comes in to make a framework that they can start with and so I think we'll discover some things like that. So, that's just a specific example for right now. There's multiple people that are trying to write a study instead of hiring a consultant to come
Mhm.
write the study in order to be able to do what DEQ requested of us. I think.
Yeah, I get that.
So moving forward here, just for time's sake, I still need some guidance though, John, and that is, if we make a motion to approve the budget as presented, then we're locking ourselves into $18,000 as I see it. And so how do we accomplish both where we can approve the budget for city staff and the council, but request additional funds?
okay, thank you, sir. So you would ask for a motion, for example, you say, I'm looking for a motion to amend the proposed budget and add to add these items, or increase the market studies. So for example, motion could be, I move to amend the current proposed budget from 18,000 to 40,000. And the budget be identifying studies of X amount, right? So that could be a
Okay.
way to,
But
And
once
then-
we approve that, then we get $40,000.
right,
without-
and then I'll
without
take
asking
that
permission.
to
Yeah,
Melanie and say, this is what they're asking. Now, the city council will be either like,
yes or no?
yes or no, but at least, hey, this is what we're hearing from the business community, that these are important things. We need to get the marketing out there. We need to do a couple events, and we need to complete some studies. But in the same time, we're going to be looking for partners or opportunities for grants or sponsorship too. But,
Okay.
Chair, maybe a
Yes,
suggestion, and I
please.
apologize, I have an 11 o'clock I gotta take in the room next door, but
Perfect.
on this budget request and ask, I'm wondering if there also might be a middle ground where we could say, we've reviewed it, here's our proposal back, but maybe for 2 reasons, one, capacity, and for funding, is that here's a 2-year option. Here are the things that we, as an EDC, since this is our first year, and we're taking on a lot as a EDC, because whatever we put out there, we're responsible for.
Yep.
We've already got 2 events in person. That's gonna take logistics and
Yep.
timing and volunteer work to
Yep.
participate in. We've got awesome ideas on studies. I love where we're going with it, but maybe we could phase that work in the next 2 years, which then gives us a leg up on our work plan for next year as well.
Yeah.
And softens the budget request ask.
Yeah, that's
Would just be
completely
something to
legitimate.
consider.
Yep, okay. Okay, so I'm asking for the tough challenge of a motion with amendments.
Oh, let me get this straight. Either we're looking at doing something like a 2-year at, say, 60. Get where I'm going here, a 2-year at 60. Or a 1-year at 40.
You mapped it up quicker than me, because I was
Yeah.
going 1836 and half of 36 to 18 a year.
Well, we can go 18. I'd rather do it that way because you see, you want to ask for whatever you think you can actually, what you actually want, and then you work with whatever you actually get. So,
Right.
so
I mean, this budget, right? I mean, it's gonna be possibly approved by the city council, but in the future, if there's needs, can the city also help amend budgeting and change if we propose, like, we actually need this type of funding? So I think, is it really important for us to kind of 1 to 2 years, but let's just get this going, and then we can work with the city council in the future if we need amendment or more funding.
I think y'all have great ideas. I think to your point is, yes, let's get started.
Yeah.
I think we should put on our agenda, maybe it's every quarter or something, or a placeholder in a meeting. If someone comes up and says, hey, this is something I want us to consider in our quarterly, if we met quarterly and we talked about the budget needs for the following year, we'd at least have 3 meetings to start, like, hey, this is something I think we really need to think about for next year's budget, right? I think
Yeah.
to Cindy's point, we're taking on a lot of great work, getting marketing, moving it forward, but I like your idea. Let's, we got to start somewhere, right?
Right, so we approved the baseline budget with the understanding that we're gonna ask for more.
Yeah.
For Christmas this year, we want this, but Dad, watch out. Next year.
But I believe it's important that we do amend, don't, because it looks like it's a portion just for hotel study. If
Yeah.
We change that. that
Just
will
to
give us a little
study.
bit more.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Study and research and enhance that. I also think we should condense the very specific outreach and just have an outreach
Outreach, yeah,
budget.
that's a great,
Yeah,
because
so
like
that-
Eric explained.
Yeah, because then it
Yeah,
allows us
yeah.
to be flexible.
So maybe do like. You could do the outreach for like 10 and then the studies for like 30. So then it'd be like a 40K budget.
And how does the budgeting work if we only spend like 20 on the,
This goes into the.
Study.
It
end
just
It
rolls
rolls
to
over.
the next
Yeah.
year.
Goes back
Yeah.
and it's allocated for what we want to do?
Not particularly.
It
No,
goes
the
back to
city-
the
the
general
council at the end
fund.
of the day
Yeah.
has those
Yeah.
ultimate decisions.
Yeah.
Not particularly.
Yeah, the council can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But our
But
recommendation.
at least,
Okay.
you know, your list, the business voice is out there, right?
Okay, let's get that motion on the table.
What is the motion?
You've got to make it.
We
Right.
haven't made a motion yet. We're trying
Yeah.
to come to some consensus on a motion here.
Yeah.
And then once we come with it, we'll make it.
So like I motion for consolidation of the outreach budget.
Yep.
For a total amount of $10,000.
Yep,
And the amendment of hotel market study to be economic development study for a total of 30,000.
Yep.
And total budget for the Economic Development Commission would be a total of 40,000.
For the
42,000.
2024 budget year.
2024 budget.
25,
2025
25, oh yeah, that's right.
budget year.
Great job.
and add a marketing line item in
Yeah.
there.
Do I have a,
Do we have a marketing line item in there yet or no?
We did, we have it, I have it, so that counts.
Okay, what do you have?
I have it at, I have marketing for $7,000, which is a part of that $40,000. It just needs to be a budget line
okay.
item, giving us authorization to execute it.
Right,
So
it's
a motion
allocated from
to-
the 40.
Yeah.
You would-
So
you-
10
you Just change your motion a little bit.
Well,
Okay.
we'll start over, but
Yeah.
just to make sure we're clear, outreach, I have 10,000. Development studies, I have 30,000. So we've got, oh, that's 40 right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so then let's throw, well, let's
Seven.
parcel that. Because our outreach right now is $3,000 as presented. So if we did 5,000 for outreach and 5,000 for marketing, and then 30,000 for studies, that would make 40.
yeah, and that marketing can also go into the
Yep,
outreach as well.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Procedurally, if we identify another thing throughout the year and it doesn't fit into these columns, can we reallocate this thing that we created without going to the city council?
I don't think we could.
Well, we can do it.
I
What
think
you're
city
gonna do.
council can do it for us. So if we could take, we would take that to them. We gotta get going. She's gotta go.
Yeah.
I approve what Ryan mentioned.
Okay. Okay, so let's restart the motion very quick. Okay, go ahead.
I'll let you do it.
I can't.
No, he can't.
Yeah.
I motion for consolidation of the outreach with 2 line items added, outreach 5,000 and marketing material. was
Yep,
it?
yep.
Marketing 5,000, hotel market study amended to be economic development study for a total of 30,000 and complete economic development budget would be $40,000
For the
Okay.
2025.
for
budget.
2025.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
I think we played this one well enough.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion carries, and we just approved a $40,000 budget.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, great job.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Cindy. Have a good day.
See you next month.
Okay, moving on to number 6, staff updates on Mass Timber Conference outreach.
Yes, so the Mass Timber Conference is March 24th, 25th, and 26th this year. We've got a couple thousand attendees from, across the United States and worldwide there. They're coming out, Solder Timber is having a tour of their facility, and it'll be on March 25th from 11 to 1 p.m. tentatively. We're working with them to get about 2 tour buses coming in of folks to tour the facility there. And then we'll probably have lunch somewhere afterwards. So definitely would love to have anyone, talk to. We're still kind of working the details out with Sauter because the status of where they're at in their building there. So, but just wanted to update you there. So it's a great opportunity to market the industrial park. Also, around different types of machinery and equipment that we do here in the area. So from that standpoint there. So
Mass Timber, is that a timber company?
a Mass Timber Conference, it's in Portland.
Solid
And
timber.
it started back in like 2017. And it's grown to be, started with about 300 to 400 people attending it. Now it's got probably 3,000 to 4,000 people that attend it. So it's a look it up online. It's quite impressive. The timber industry is changing. And some of the equipment that they use and manufacture from the German manufacturers is quite impressive, so. And what Sauter Timber does is more like CNC type of machinery on big beams, right? So they have a 3-dimensional machinery in there. It's a Hundinger, it's called, and it's about a $2 million machine. They got some other machines in there, but basically, you need people with skills, being able to do computer, and able to set up machinery. And so it's quite fascinating where some of that modernization is going in the wood product industry. So.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to commissioner comments. Any comments from the commission?
My only comment is, as we plan this or kind of make our recommendations to the council, also being in mind if the local residents, the local businesses, we can bring in a lot of external businesses, but we don't want to dilute the market for our local, and we don't want to displace our local
Yes.
people, especially those that are residents here in Estacada. I just wanted to share that.
Well, that's part of the uniquely Estacada comment I made is, but we've identified that the leakage is severe here, dollars are not staying in Estacada. And we need to do something to offset that.
Yep.
And so, we have to be mindful of both those worlds, that's what when I say that, that's what I really mean by this. We've got to do a serious balancing act. With
Yeah.
that. And our marketing has to be that way, we have to kind of target what we want to go and go after it, Personally, I'm a big believer in, since I came out of the grocery world, I mean, we need to have a better market for our grocery, because I'm Harvest Market and DG, Dollar General across the street here, or across the parking lot here. You guys don't even realize that those guys are probably the second largest grocery supplier in the world.
Wow.
They're huge. And you just don't get that, but they're in every little town like this.
Yeah.
Or you're not gonna even find them you can find them in Texas, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And it just, if the town is just basically a crossroad somewhere, there's a DG there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I don't know if that's what we want to do, we want to I'm kind of looking at, putting together something that's, family oriented, when we get the industrial customer, try to get those industrial workers here, something for them. But they also need to have the services.
Yep.
And, and those things close at hand. We don't need to be traveling 9 miles to Sandy or the 16 miles to Clackamas or wherever it is. They need to stay here, and those dollars need to stay here. And of course, they're going to also give us jobs too. And,
Yep.
And those are the kind of, things I look at. And the other issue I had too, if you want to get Northwest Natural Gas here, we have to have a large industrial customer here for them,
Okay.
because they're not going to come here for the houses.
Right.
They're going to come here for the large industrial
sure.
customers.
But we can't get one of those unless we have natural gas, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's-
chicken
yeah.
and egg.
Yeah, no, I know it's
Yeah.
a thing, but if we could market ourselves accordingly, I don't know, do we want a customer like that here though? And what that looks, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who uses natural gas in that kind of quantity?
Yeah.
We go through this, it's a cycle with
Yeah.
talking about natural gas, like, If you build it, they'll come. They won't come unless you have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's gonna look seriously at it's the chicken and the egg.
Yeah, it is.
And then it's also that when we look at our SWOT analysis, weaknesses and threats, we can say all the things, nice things we want, but nobody knows what people are doing in the industrial park.
There-
Nope, I moved a powder coater out here. It used to be in Clackamas because they had natural gas. They needed natural gas. 3 years ago, I moved it out here into the industrial park. I had these huge propane tanks in order to feed it because I was tired of driving. Eagle Foundry has big propane
Yeah.
outside there, and so, but they're not gonna go, I can't go pay to get the line run out here.
Sure.
Comes and goes.
I think it might be like maybe the federal government might have to help out or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a huge project that I think would take multiple parties, but I think it's a topic that should be at this table that we constantly revisit.
When we continue to develop industrial parks and build houses, and it's not even piped for natural gas, which I get,
Right.
we drive ourselves further and further from the problem. So it just makes it worse. I think sometimes too, as we talk about different, the event coming up, the timber
Next.
conference and things like that. When we look at those new things are coming, a new company comes to town, we have to stop and look at the companies that we already have in town. I haven't had anybody from the city come by my place for years. So when you look at I was like, the best way to keep workforce is to keep your workforce, keep the back door shut so that people aren't leaving. So it'd be all excited about all these ones that are coming, but the ones that are here would really be the easier ones to try to build off of. It's already here.
I'm all for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it, part of the problem we have and some of the issues, you identified.
Okay.
I guess I'm good at that.
Yep. Great. Well, I like the direction that we're headed. Next meeting, agenda items and proposed dates, just sticking with proposed dates here. It looks like April 14th. Is that one that needs to change or is
I
that one
think-
okay?
We were thinking, in the afternoon, maybe doing an afternoon meeting. And then we talked about, potentially Eric, I'll talk with city staff. Like if we could host it at, Eric, if you're willing to host it, I think it'd be, a great opportunity. We'll still have to have our meeting and then afterwards we could, learn about what Eric does and go to maybe a couple of the other spots out there. I think
For
that
sure.
would be, helpful for the commission to see from that
Okay.
standpoint. And then I think that really helps to think about that event in July.
Yeah.
Like what would be some of the outreach or thinking about like what that would look like for
Okay.
a discussion on that. So,
Sounds good. And you had said earlier either 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock for future
Yeah,
meetings,
yeah,
but I would
so
just really
I don't
like
know,
to
it's
encourage.
Tuesday, maybe it's
Tuesday's great for me
but
anyways,
April
but
15th.
11
is
o'clock,
Tuesday,
11 o'clock would be the best time
Best for
zone
you?
for
Okay.
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Because
maybe-
I start working with parents from 1 o'clock onward.
Okay.
Every day is different. So, yeah,
Sure.
okay.
So April 14th or 15th?
14th is great if that's
Okay.
the Tuesday.
That's Monday.
It's so 15th, sorry, it's Tuesday.
Tax day.
Ooh, yeah,
It's
April
actually- so-
15th at 11 o'clock. Final answer.
Okay,
Okay,
7:15 to 2 at
at 11 a.m., right?
11 a.m.
11,
11
correct,
at
11.
At Eric's Northwest.
Gotcha.
okay. Then that concludes March's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, man.
Good job.
Interesting.
Great discussion.